Hey everyone, welcome to another KE Report webinar hosted in conjunction with Focus Communications. I'm your host, Corey Fleck, also your host over at the Corland Economics Report, kereport.com, where we do focus on general markets as well as resource companies. And in this webinar, we are featuring Mantaro Silver, traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol MSLV. I am chatting with the president, Chris Wilson, just to bring everybody up to speed. Mantaro Silver is focused on the exploration of high-grade precious metal systems in South America, mostly in Bolivia and Peru. Chris will walk us through a presentation here. I will be interjecting questions throughout this presentation, so please use the chat function within this webinar platform to ask your questions, and I will be bringing those in when it really relates to the presentation. One other quick thing to mention here is, Chris, you're joining us, unfortunately, after very shortly being diagnosed with COVID. So I hope you're feeling okay. I know you're double vaxxed, but if there's any coughs that you need to get out, feel free to do that. We do appreciate you taking the time here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, you wouldn't want it if you hadn't been doubly vaccinated. And of course, it's the teenage kids going back to university that does the damage. But yeah, I'm just coming out the other side, so if I look a bit red and sweaty and bloated, then, apologies, but it is what it is.
You're looking good, Chris. You're doing well, buddy. Here, I'm going to start up this presentation. You walk us through this presentation. As I mentioned, bring those questions in through that chat feature. We already have a number of questions, so Chris, I'll let you start to run with it here, please.
Okay, slightly unorthodox presentation. I tend not to have a lot of text. I tend to, where possible, talk to graphics. Mantaro Silver Corp. Here's one of the miners underground, 50 meters from the surface in Bolivia on what's quite a high-grade, relatively wide ore body. More on that in a moment. There's the mandatory disclaimer. We won't wait for everyone to read it. It's available if you want it on the website. Okay, it's a portfolio, 3 projects really, advanced. They're high grade. Bolivia's gold, and Peru is either silver base metal or silver gold base metal. Because I haven't been the strongest I've been for a while, we're mainly going to talk about Bolivia today with a little bit of an update on Santos Glorious. That makes sense really, because that's where the action has been and is certainly going to be. So there's the 5 projects: La Prisma, Cerro Luque, and Huaranai. We staked for just under $13,000. Some reported high-grade historical, so we thought we'd pick that up. Our main project in Peru, Santos Glorious, is a high-grade intermediate sulfidation epithermal, a vein system, as is San Jose. We listed on Santos Glorious, and recently, a couple of weeks ago, brought in Golden Hill in Bolivia. Current cash position, 5.9 million Canadian, just over 60 million issued and outstanding, almost 6 million warrants, stock options. Most of them are 35 to 49, just a few recently at 25 to the people who helped bring in Golden Hills. And then the warrants, just over 13 million at 55. With another sort of 6 months to go. So reasonably tight structure, good cash position, and certainly enough to service all of our commitments across the 3 projects.
Chris, what about insider ownership? Can you take us through what management, insiders, and any other large shareholders hold, please?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that a little bit more, but none of the present board or core group have sold any, so I'd guess about 20, 25, 30%. We came out of the traps. We did have a fairly big volume, so I probably wouldn't want to say it more than that, but certainly everyone who's intimately involved in it has got their stock. Yeah, totally held with management. Fully permitted mining concession. This is something that most people, don't fully understand. In Bolivia, you're granted a license which you cannot transfer. This speaks a little bit to the worry of nationalism, past governments such as Evo Morales. Golden Hill has been awarded as a fully permitted mining concession to a rather significant private company in Bolivia. They've got multiple enterprises. So, in terms of nationalisation, the changing of the ground rules, it didn't happen during Morales. It hasn't happened in the past, because any effect on this licence would be a direct effect on a significant Bolivian company. So we feel very safe in this, and we're earning into that company. The company's clean, and it is a fully permitted mining concession. That means we're sort of limited, really, by the ore body, if we define one, in their ability to capitalise that development. It's a high-grade orogenic system. We'll move on to that. I just want to put a few things in perspective. West Africa, Abitibi, and Bolivia, those light green areas are pretty much to scale. West Africa, almost 1 million square kilometres, significantly above 320 million ounces of gold, and 100 years of exploration. I'm sure the North American audience, especially the Canadian, familiar with the Abitibi. 100, 120 years of exploration and mining, significantly over 180 million ounces discovered. The Bolivian shield in its entirety is bigger than the Abitibi, less than 10 million ounces to date. And as you'll see over the next couple of slides, it really is analogous in terms of its regional setting, the Bolivian shield, to both the Abitibi, the West Africa, and Northeast South America, where you have the giants such as I forgot now, El Choco, sorry, that one slipped me. So this is the Abitibi. Very important concept. All of the major gold deposits are hosted on regional structures. These are crustal scale structures. Where they juxtapose metavolcanics against metasediments, those are favorable places. You get competency contrast between the different rock types. That focuses stress. So in these green slate hosted systems, we could give West Africa the same. If you're not on these regional plumbing structures, you're not going to get the major deposits. And there's Bolivia. If we just go back a second, you can see on that bottom structure, it splays. You've got the Hollinger-McIntyre right out to the left. That cluster of gold deposits, green against light green on your pink intrusives. Keep that image in mind. And there you have Bolivia. And what's really significant here, and unfortunately we don't have a mouse pointer, so I'm going to try and turn on the whiteboard and draw something, is that area there. Okay, and I'm now going to clear that. That's a regional structure that juxtaposes these different units. And there's 6 known gold deposits along that structure. Yet Bolivia in the shield has hardly been explored. And
Chris,
we would
who's
just
made some of these discoveries? Because a lot of people might not know this Bolivian shield. So who are some of the major players in the shield?
We've already alluded to the fact that these systems are crustal structures, crustal scale structures. So they're typically originally found in places like West Africa, where it's a bit more tropic and humid, Northeast South America. Las Cristinas was the one I was thinking of, El Choco. So because these structures have vertical kilometers of extent, as the land surfaces weather down, they typically shed alluvial gold. So you get this sort of mushroom type feature. Alluvial and saprolite gold at the top of the mushroom, in the stalk over the regional structure. So worldwide, most of these have been found by farmers, prospectors, following the alluvial fields of the golden soils. And that's pretty much what's happened in Bolivia. It's the local gallimperos, the local artisanal miners, that have taken this free gold from the top of the mushroom, leaving the deeper, more hard to get to structures below. And Bolivia struggled for capital over the last 15 years, given its politics. It looks to be a much more favorable place now. So what typically happened in Bolivia was the top of the system was mined, and the roots, which is what you now have in the Abitibi in West Africa, has not been touched because lack of capital. But if you look at the 2 slides together there, the Bolivia shield and the Abitibi greenstone as a proxy, a lot of similarities. And we really like the fact that Golden Hill, again, I'll just turn on the little whiteboard here, just sitting there red. Golden Hill has 5 other deposits on that structure, so it's clearly a gold mineralized structure. I put this one in, I borrowed this one from the Abitibi again, the Brooklyn Reef, the Halnor Trend. The horizontal distance from the left to the right is about 3 kilometers. And you can see Lower Halnor is now being discovered 1.5 kilometers below surface. What's important is, again, we'll turn the whiteboard on. All along the top here, these systems are not breaking surface because you have this brown alluvial cover. So a lot of these systems are blind. What typically happens is people become aware of near surface mineralization, such as the test pit here, and it takes time to drill deeper and deeper and find these ore bodies. All over West Africa, these types of systems, the worldwide, because they're associated with these crustal structures that are tens to sometimes hundreds of kilometers long, they have excellent depth potential. They're usually vertical. They typically form at 3 to 5 kilometers. So if the structures were folding over like this, lithostatic pressure would close them. So they're these sort of subvertical to vertical crustal structures, and they have massive depth potential. And across Bolivia, Canada, West Africa, they're mature exploration provinces. They've had 100, 120 years and a lot of money thrown at them. What we're seeing in Bolivia is an analogous system with just the tops of the surfaces being mined off, that top of the mushroom being mined off by the guy in Peru and the artisanals. It's really quite exciting. You just need to, yeah, thank you.
I gotcha. Yeah, just summarize then how deep do these go then? You said 3 to 4 kilometers on a structure fault, but the
systems form 3 to 4 kilometers below surface. So if the structure was to tilt even slightly, the pressure of the rock pushing down would close it. So they're usually vertical structures. That means they stay open to great depth. Mineralized intervals on them, very, very common to have 750 plus meters. And as we're seeing in the Abitibi in parts of West Africa now, significantly over a kilometer. Okay, it's just the architecture of these crustal structures. So, my understanding of the Bolivian geology is they have every chance of having the same depth potential as the analogous greenstone systems worldwide.
Okay. Do you expect grade to increase as you get deeper in these systems?
Well, it's a bit hard to zoom in. It doesn't have to. I mean, what the Lower Halnor Brulin Reef shows you here is the high-grade mineralization occurs in these chutes, these sort of lenses. The top one under Halnor, it goes a kilometer deep, 500 meters deep by a kilometer wide. It's a very big chute. Within it, it's got higher grade pods. And the reason for that, if you imagine that, I just take a structure and I tip it up so you can see my hands. If that's moving up and the structure flexes, it opens. If it moves that way, it closes. So every time the structure rolls into your opening direction, you get dilation, and that's where you start to get the high-grade chutes. So the grade doesn't have to continue at depth. It can continue at depth. It's usually pretty robust throughout the system on these stacked high-grade chutes.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
The blue line is the concession. What's really apparent off the get-go is between this point here and that point there, you have 4 kilometers of gold-bearing quartz veins, multiple sets of them, that have either been mined at surface or, in the case of La Escarcha here, has underground development. That is 4 kilometers from there to there. I'm now going to try and draw a line. This part of the structure here, this part of the structure here, that's completely underexplored. That's 6 more kilometers of structure. And you have all of these green areas out in here. These are alluvials. So we know the structure up in here is shedding alluvial gold. So we've got 4 kilometers of known veins where you've had the surface of them mined or you've gone underground on them, with another 6 kilometers untouched. We've talked about the need for dilation, the need for the veins to roll and give you opening. When we look at the regional setting here, and the rivers follow the weaknesses of the faults, the silicified ridges, the ground magnetics, the aerial magnetics, it all comes together to give you a structural architecture. Our first pass on the ground and with all their data gives you this. So basically, those two arrows define the movement on that regional structure. And because the structure's rolled, you're getting opening. So as that goes up and this comes down, so not only do we have this 4 kilometers of gold-bearing veins, which have been variably mined between there and there, but you have multiple faults, such as this one. These splays can all be gold mineralized. And the total length is over 10 to 12 kilometers by 2 kilometers wide. It's a really healthy system to explore. This is why we got 4 geologists down there. We don't send 4 geologists down because, you know, we want to have a picnic in the Amazon. So it's not only is it a regional structure with gold deposits either side, but we've got this beautiful flexure which has given us this zone of dilation. You mentioned the very good concept of who's finding these and how are they being found. If we go to here, that's Poquito Norte. Now, this is an unverified 350,000 ounces. It's owned by a cooperative that is not 4310 compliant, not at all, and we shouldn't rely on that. But what we're being told by the cooperative who mined the top of the mushroom was that they went down 30, 40 meters and recovered about 350,000 ounces of gold. As I said, we have no way of verifying that, and it should not be relied upon. But that is one, and there's another 4 to the north where they're mining gold presently. So you've got over 25 regional kilometers, 6 deposits, and we're sitting in this beautiful zone of dilation. That's really quite nice. You know, when I talk about it like that, even
Chris, why hasn't this area been more explored then, if there are so many mines along trend?
Well, I mean, what I haven't mentioned until now, Luis Cortez, Luis, the owner of Golden Hill, has just joined the board of Mantaro. We had the press release out. And when we were putting the video together, you know, Luis is fluent in English, fluent in Spanish, a very eloquent, talented company operator, company owner, really has a flavor of what's happening in Brazil. I think Luis hit the nail on the head. He said, you know, we're happy to work with Mantaro because we've neither had the capital or, more importantly, the experience to deal with these systems. You know, I'm lucky. I've worked in over 76 countries. I wouldn't consider myself a brilliant geologist, but I've met a lot of brilliant geologists along the way, and a little bit of each deposit sticks in my head. For the Bolivian geologists, this is all they've seen. And when they're mining quite happily in recovering gold from 4 kilometers of veins, where's the impetus to go out and spend money and start chasing these? So, you know, this is a partnership. We've got the owner of Golden Hill that we're earning into on the board with us, embracing our global experience, our ability to capitalize, and we're embracing his and his father's ability to operate on these systems in Bolivia. So, you know, that shouldn't be overlooked. It's fully permitted, and we've got a great in-country team, but they've never had the finances or the ability to take this on. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. We're also getting a lot of questions in terms of what work you guys are going to do. What sort of a drill program can we expect? So we progress.
Oh, that's coming. There's a little bit of temptation always goes. We're just starting the main course now. Okay. The dessert's going to be really sweet. Okay, you know. So let's open another bottle of wine and get onto that bit. Thank you for taking it off. In detail, this is the 4 kilometers from La Escarcha here, where there's... Right, I'll turn that on. Okay, La Escarcha here, where there's underground development. 5 veins, C1 to C5. And they've mined surface at Gabi in here, and brownfields. Plus, we're now finding, they've only been on deck for 2 weeks, just got the orientation, but the geologists have got another vein swarm up here, more veins up here on structure. So what's the plan here? What are we trying to achieve? There's always an option. We can go and drill all these systems straight away. And, you know, if we want to turn a drill rig on tomorrow, we can turn a drill rig on tomorrow. We're permitted. Some of the outlying areas, we would talk to the farmers and say, you know, is this okay? But there's not going to be any issues. Everyone's on side. Everyone wants this development. So we could go drilling tomorrow. but we're blessed with a shaft here at La Scarcha that gets down to about, oops, let me turn the whiteboard on. The shaft at La Scarcha there gets down to about 70 meters, down to about 40, 50 straight. For almost the same cost as drilling, we can drop that shaft down to 110 quite easily. It's got this development here. So we can drop that shaft, we can access this development, we can drive cross drives, and I believe we can target the mineralization at La Scarcha much more efficiently and at very little more cost by going underground. You know, down in here, I can't actually see it. Is it possible to move the photo of yourself and myself across?
Absolutely. Yeah, one sec here, Chris. Let me just move it up there. There you go.
Okay, you know, if we have a look at this section, there's only been 8 historic... Sorry, I'm not good at turning on the whiteboard.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe I've got a whiteboard phobia that I didn't know about until today.
You'll get over it.
That was a pretty straight line, mate. Yeah.
That's
Look
pretty
at
good.
that. Only 8 holes, 1,600 meters. Now, this is very important. Mantaro has been unable to verify these intercepts in assays. They are not 43101 compliant, and they should not be relied upon. Okay, I think that's gone in twice. But I'm putting them in for historic reasons. We've had 8 holes, 4 of them hit. 2.61 meters at 17 from 134 down hole. 13.5 meters at 7 from 47 meters. 1.6 meters at 4, close to surface. Okay, and at 121, and 2.6, almost 3 at 11.33. So 4 of those 6 holes hit really decent grade. And I'll leave it to you to go back up to the cross section at some stage, or Google Hathmore, and see the sorts of grades that come out of the Abitibi hits. The other holes were over 1 to 3 to 4 to 5 meters at between 1 to 2. So yes, we want to go drilling, but I would like to complete as much field work and integrate as much data as we possibly can to go at the highest value targets. And there seems to be very little point in drilling La Scarcha, which sits in here, when we've got very little extra cost, the ability to go in and drive on 5 veins that have been previously mined. If we can just clear the, yeah. And you know, on the left-hand side, that's the underground, that's the underground minus 40 C3 vein. It's 5 meters wide. It's multi-phase. So yes, we want to drill, but our ability to drive on these veins will give us such a larger data set. We can sample in a much tighter interval, which, you know, whilst again a forward-looking statement, there is no certainty of a resource. If you're going for a resource, sampling density is important. So there are multiple advantages to going underground if you can do it for almost the same cost and extend what's already there. That means the drilling then will be on the more reconnaissance targets that we're finding as we put it all together. And these are, you know, visible gold is common here. You take heart from the fact that 8 holes have been drilled, and 4 of them hit good grade, and 4 of them were in the 1 to 2 gram material. Whilst there is a nugget gold going on, it doesn't seem to be too bad that we could not put a resource together on drilling alone. But we're going to utilize both options. And again, this is why we've already sent. We had a 5-ton blast out of here. We sent 200 kilos to SGS Lakefield for bench scale metallurgy. The reason being is there is a plant on site at the moment. There's a full crushing circuit, a pulverizing circuit. The gravity circuits would need remediation. So it's not lost on us on the fact that as we're driving underground onto this to explore for a potential resource, that there's merit in taking this material. Again, we're a fully permitted mine with the owner and the chief executive of the company that we're earning into on the board of Mantaro. The sorts of work we're doing with a team of 4 at the moment, these are quartz, metavolcanic, sediment, vein within alluvial. And again, we're finding lots of gold. So these are the clasts in here. Oops, got to get over that phobia on the whiteboard. There's the class there. This is all vein material in alluvial. Even if it's not in situ, vein density will put you on the structures. And importantly, there you go again, visible gold. Now, everyone gets hung up about visible gold. They put it in the safes, they get the brass band out, and they march down Main Street.
Oh, too much so, I think. Yeah.
But the point is, this is, we put it a different way. We are seeing a lot of visible gold, not just in the supergene oxide zone, but in the primary ore bodies from the underground development. So, there's a lot of merit before we turn that drill on, is to get out and sample this pretty significant density, because we want to put those drills on the best possible, highest value targets.
How many targets do you want then, Chris? What would isolate the highest value target? And you can't have too many targets. So what is a sweet spot there? Well,
the sweet spot's definitely La Escarcha, because, at La Escarcha, you've got this underground development on 5 veins. I don't want to put on the table the grades that they think they've been mining and recovering, because that would be forward-looking and it's unverified. But it does seem to be quite a healthy system. So you've got, how much do we need? La Escarcha is about 800 meters long. 5 veins, that's clearly got to be the prime focus. And that's why we're going underground. And we hope to be sinking and driving off in about 2 weeks' time. The advantage with doing that also, we're a permitted mine. So by mining, we're ticking all the boxes from a regulatory standpoint. And more importantly, we're generating some work within the local communities to go what they do best, which is mining. So it's a win-win-win situation. So yes, we want that 800 meters of veins. We're thinking of driving an adit through Gabby, which is another high priority target that's been mined at surface. How many more do I want? Well, we don't want to blow the budget being stupid, but if we can start, getting some following, if the markets are a little bit more kind to us, and we can demonstrate that we really are value-added, results-driven, then on future raises, we will have the ability to go at more and more targets. I mean, we've got over 10 kilometers of regional structure here with 4 kilometers of veins on a great untouched greenstone province, fully permitted. So, how many targets does the market want? Well, as long as each target is value added, it makes a difference. It's however many it's going to be, And we've got a very good team on deck. They're young, they're driven, they've all got big motors on them. At any one time, we will have 2 to 3 UK geologists and 2 to 3 Peruvian, Bolivian geologists. So, yeah, we're on to it.
So, Chris, when it comes down to cash, then, a lot of people are asking, how much money is it going to cost, one, to get into small-scale mining, and another, to actually explore here?
Well, we don't want to get into small-scale mining. I don't want to become a small-scale miner just yet, but I am cognizant of the fact we've got a plant on site with a gravity circuit. Mm-hmm. And, we've been approached by several groups out of Geneva and London for small loans, basically you could probably put in quite a sophisticated centrifugal gravity circuit for under 5 million. And there is a history that, they've got all the mine records of demonstrated production. So I do think, if we elected to upgrade the plant because we were exploring onto good veins underground and producing in any case, then there would be a way to do that through a small loan that wasn't hurting us. But that's a brave thing to say, because it is forward looking. It shouldn't be relied on, and I really don't want to go the route of mining.
Yeah.
What we're looking at here is
the cost here.
Yeah, 5. But if you're pulling it out any case, you've got a plant on site. Mm-hmm. How big a pile do you want to make before you do something with it? 5,000 meters of drilling or underground development equivalent. If you said, 300 a meter, so we've got the money to get that going. We're well within, all our payments. We're well within budget here.
Okay, thanks. How long is the company? How much money does the company have? How long are you funded for then?
5.9 million, I think it was what I said at the start.
Okay.
That was the fourth slide. So that will allow us to cover in Santos Glorias, San Jose. In San Jose in Peru, we've got about $290,000 worth US of remaining payments and about 50 in the ground. In Santos Glorious, we got 900, and you'll see the payments for Golden Hill soon. So, we're covered for all of our costs to our full earnings on these three projects, and, probably a decent chunk of drilling. So we are going to have to raise more money, but, I'm saying that with 5.9 million in the bank, and we've already achieved, I think a fair amount. Yeah. We've got our mapping going. First 2 weeks were a bit haphazard. You've got to get your eye in. You've got to get the cutters, the local guys that were cutting through the bush. Team's taking a few beers off in Santa Cruz. They wanted to get on and watch the webinar so they can poke fun at me tomorrow. They couldn't do that on the internet at mine, so they're out having a few beers. I'm sure I'm going to catch their wrath in an hour or two. But they're in, and we'll have a team of 2 or 3 rostered right through to Christmas and into New Year. And it's discovery right here on that first sentence. This is about discovery of new vein systems. Okay, I better clear that because I'm not... Can you clear that? Okay,
there you go. Yep.
Because obviously, whilst we've got some good veins, we might get a soil geochemical anomaly that puts us somewhere else. So before we turn that rig on, we want to turn it on in the best possible spot. The second one, we've already got 200 kilos bench scale metallurgy. It's going for gravity. It's going for cyanide leach on tails. We've also got 27 samples of tailings, like 15 to 27 samples of tailings that they're looking at to see what the gold content of the tailings is. So, we just want to know in the back of our mind what the flow path would be and what could possibly be recovered. So that's ongoing. We've already acquired, number 3, our high-resolution satellite and radar imagery. That's allowing us to make a 1 meter digital elevation model. The horizontal accuracy is less than 50 centimeters. We shoot on a radar system 6 times. So that's the basis for all of our drilling, all of our underground development, everything we do. And that's all acquired, paid for. Our underground development, which is number 4, November 2021, we're going back underground onto those veins. It's a really good feeling to walk along a vein that's 4 to 5 meters wide, and it looks like it's going to be okay. Drilling number 5, as soon as targets are refined, the temptations to charge in, and you don't want to do that on a system like this and drill a few duds. We can go underground. We can start channel sampling. We've got the ability to look at potential resource estimates on La Escarcha. And again, I say potential because there is no guarantee. Nothing is certain in the world of exploration. So we want to focus on the obvious where we've got the best chance of success, and that's going underground. I would think by early January, maybe late December, we've got our high priority drill targets lined up. And then, we can turn the rig on when we want to. We're a very proactive company. We take advice well. We listen to what the market's saying. And if, it's turn the rig on end of year, early next year, as we in parallel go underground, so be it. And the last thing, we want to extend the magnetic survey. It was done over about 40% of the concession. It's not critical, but magnetic, these structures always show up because the rocks either side of the structure have a different magnetic signature. Fluids on the structure often destroy magnetite in the rock, so they're low magnetic. So we want to put the magnetics on. But basically, we've only signed this up 6 odd weeks ago, and by November, we'll be underground on these loads. We've got a team of 4 blitzing the mapping and geochemical sampling. Our satellite and radar is already shot. I'd like to think we're getting bang for our buck out of it. I've worked in 76 countries. I've usually worked for private money, killing projects. This is really, well, what can I say except I like this one a lot now. And I don't normally like projects. I'm a bitter and twisted old bugger, and shit, I'm getting excited about this one now. I mean, that's enough, isn't it?
I think you can tell that you're excited. It also sounds like there's a lot of, in a way, low-hanging fruit for these targets. So it's just refining these targets a little bit more when you get underground, and drilling should start soon. So that does answer a lot of people's questions.
Yeah, as I said, look, I'm too bitter and twisted to consider low-hanging fruit. I'll leave that to the market wizards and new age gurus who can look into the crystal ball better than I can. But, you know, how excited you... Christ, I'm 57 and I'm getting over COVID. You can't get me much more excited. Come on, cut the bloke some slack here. And I'm not even allowed to drink at the moment, so I can't chill later. It's a bit of a bummer, really, you know.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time. A lot of people are wondering when you're going to start drilling here, but clearly you're excited, and that is a good summary. You've only had this project for about 6 weeks now, so you are moving more quickly. Chris, we also do have questions on Peru and when drilling could start there. So I don't know if you want to get to that now or if there's a little bit more on Golden Hill. There we go.
Look, this is on the website. This is our commitment for Golden Hill. I put it in the presentation. I don't think it's pertinent to go through it now. There is a press release out on it. Just Google the press release. It's all there. I'm only going to talk about Santos Glorious in Peru. We've got 100% option. It's advanced in that it's underground working. It's high grade, silver, surprisingly with gold and base metals.
Why do you say surprisingly with gold and base metals?
Because we weren't expecting, you know, when the other companies did some of the sampling, they didn't pick up on, I think our highest channel sample was 56 grams per ton gold. I did have a section of an intermediate sulfidation system, but unlike the low sulfidations, which we're familiar with in Mexico, in the hot pools, sort of being the Yellowstone geysers, the intermediates form at 500 to a kilometer down, and they have an extended vertical interval. So you get silver with base metals and occasionally gold. And we think there's a bit of a hybrid going on here. So we've got gold at the top of 3 of our veins. And they look really nice veins. So Santos Glorious, back to this old whiteboard. I'm getting a dab hand at this now. There's Santos Glorious, just sitting in here. These are the 3 main mineralized belts in Peru. If you're not in them, you're not going to get this style of mineralization. So, you know, regionally, we're in the right place, but you'd want to be any case. Excuse me. Oh, I did put the section in. There you go. I can't blame that on anything except old age. Basically, on the right, you've got the low sulfidation epithermals. Critically, the gold tends not to be with lead and zinc. Then you get gold and silver. Then you get silver, lead and zinc, and occasionally down into a copper tail. The precious metal interval is about 250 to 300 meters. These are the classic banded Mexican epithermals, Hishikari. So let's just clear that for a second and come out now. The Santos Glorious type, this is an intermediate sulfidation. It's forming about 500 meters down. You've got a much more benign change in temperature and pressure. When you're close to the surface here, temperatures and pressures drop quickly, fluids boil, and all the metals get forced out. It's much more benign in these systems, so you tend to get base metals with silver and precious metals. The fact that we've got 3 veins that are gold rich, sometimes these systems telescope up and down. So maybe we've sort of telescoped up into a bit of a low sulfidation system, which is the one on the right, which is sort of the gold rich. Excuse me, please.
Hang in there, Chris. We're almost done, buddy.
Oh, I wouldn't want to go over now. We've almost got the last bit, you know. Wouldn't look good on the CV, would it, eh? Didn't even finish his webinar. That would be terrible.
We'll get you through this. All right, Santos Gloria. Take your time.
Santos Glorious. This photo here, yeah, that's a vein. That is 4 meters wide. It's limonitic. That's that brown iron oxide. That is what's come after sulfide. This vein had sulfide in. Now, you're not going to expect really good surface grades because rainwater's broke pyrite in base metal sulfides down to iron oxides and potentially mobilized away your precious metals. But it's a really nice knobbly outcrop. That means it's a breccia. You know, you break a rock and then try and put it back together. You get space between all the clasts. It's that space that the metals precipitate in. So the more brecciation to a degree, and the more multi-phase, the more many pulses, the better the vein potentially is. This is a really nice looking vein. It's never been drilled. In fact, there's never been a drill hole up at Santos Glorious. Also important here is we got a brilliant exploration manager in Joss Hantelman. Joss is fluent in Spanish, lives in Lima. I've worked with Joss for almost 15 years. He's really an extremely competent guy. Joss has already cleared 2 SERA permits. Those certificates are awarded to you on the basis that there is no archaeological influence that may impact your ability to operate. SERA certificates never expire. So we've been given an archaeological go-ahead for about 75% of our concession in just about everything we want to drill. We've applied for the 3rd one in the north, where there might be a little bit of complexity, but that would just be ring fencing, tennis court size areas, we believe. So Joss has cleared the main hurdle for drilling. We're now looking at the environmental permit, which is ongoing fast. It's getting pretty wet and cold up there. We could possibly start drilling in December, but with snow coming in from time to time, thunderstorms, you don't want to be on a drill rig on a mountain when the electric's coming around you. So realistically, I think we'll be drilling up there weather-wise now, January, February, depending on the season. It's close to Lima. It's only 98 kilometers from Lima. It's only at 3,300 meters. That's not high. So, we've been quietly going on in sampling. We've got our SERAs in place. Our archaeological permitting our environmental permitting should follow. We've got a community agreement until 2028, and the local community is working with us. Our underground sampling, that top one should be 3,210 grams. I missed the 0 off there. And our other channel, 2,500. So we do have some very high grade up there. So we could be drilling December, but logistically, it will probably be very early next year. But we are drill ready in terms of all the work we've done. Okay, we have 850,000 left. Turn on the whiteboard. We have 850,000 left in ground to secure our 100%. So we're looking, and that will go all into drilling now. Okay. None of these veins have been drilled. You had some underground development here. What typically happened, so that's the only underground development. It's been an absolute help to us because it's allowed us to get underground on the ore body. What typically happens, if that's the vein and that's the valley side, the Peruvian miners used to go down the valley and drive in along the vein. So it would drain naturally and they could go up. They never sunk a shaft, or rarely sunk a shaft because they didn't have to. So these areas out here, these are the gold-rich variants, and a lot of the areas in here, it's quite flat. So it was never looked at, it was never chased, okay? What does it look like in terms of grade? These are our silver grades on the left. The mid to dark blue is really anomalous, up to 2,500 grams down here on this vein. Okay, I had some very simple categories, nothing too smart here. We got some very high grade. All the white dots that you can see along here is sampling that we've completed in the last 6 weeks. We'll be getting assays back for that shortly. So we know where our veins are, we know where our superficial grade is, we know where our underground grade is, and we'll be chasing it. This is where on the Paquita and the northern veins, these are these 5 to 56 gram, 1 to 5 gram gold assays. And some of them have a little bit of silver as well. So we sort of got silver dominant down here. I'll turn on the whiteboard again. We've got silver dominant down in the south. You can see by looking across to the left. We've got gold dominant up here. But as you can see, the gold areas in there, we've also got high grade silver across there. So we've got some very exciting veins. And as I said, because the rainwater wears down, you don't expect to get these grades at surface. So it's really quite exciting. We know where we want to drill, and our permits are almost in place. So looking really good. Put this in context. This has allowed us to go underground. A lot of this we couldn't access. And the places we've channel sampled underground, such as here, that area there, was not where they mined. It was not the best part of it. They mined down in the tunnel down in here. We couldn't get into there because they'd mined it. So we actually sampled underground in the access drives. But let's put this in context. We've got channel samples above those underground workings that are anomalous over 450 meters. That's just one vein. And we know these puppies go down a long way. You know, I've worked probably 8, 10, 12 months on these systems in Peru. I've worked on them in the Philippines, Mexico a lot. They have real good depth potential. So that's about as exciting. Well, the only thing that's more exciting than that for me is Golden Hills, really. That probably comes across a bit weird because, you know, any case, yeah. But look, I like this one as well. This is a really good puppy. And let's put this in perspective. This is one of these northern veins. Let me go back 2 slides to finish. Paquita vein is in here. That's the Paquita vein there. We've got these great gold assays. Over here on the Paquita vein, we've got good anomalous silver at surface. Let's clear the whiteboard. Let's get through to that vein there. That's the Paquita vein. It's over 1 kilometer long. It's next to a road. It's 2 to 4 meters wide. It's brecciated. It's multi-phase. It's got a lot of iron oxides after sulfides. It's subvertical to vertical, so in a strike slip ride or shear system, puppy should stay open to depth, and it's never been drill tested. So in answer, the long way to answer that question, when are we drilling in Peru? Our permits will precede the weather, and as soon as we think we can safely get a drill rig up there and drive the crews on, we will be at Santos Glorias. This one excites me as well. And remember, I don't get excited very often. That's
just on these 2 projects. All right, well then, here, Chris, I want you just to wrap it up then. I'm trying to summarize, obviously you're excited about both of these prospects and the drilling that sounds like it will be starting relatively soon on both. Where should investors be focused? What's going to drive the value here? What's going to re-rate this company?
Well, obviously a turn in the markets would help. I think to say rewrite the company or rewire the company or reignite the company might be a bit harsh, given a lot of companies are getting hammered out there. You know, what we did is we stuck to our game plan. Anyone who listened to me talk from day one, I said I was going to go and find other projects. And there's been the usual, you know, writers out there, the detractors who have thrown the muck at us. But we went and delivered on a really good deal, a fully permitted Abitibi-style gold system in Bolivia that looks like it's going to be a very, very, very good place to explore. That's probably been missed on the market. Bolivia is a secure place, especially when the licenses are held by a private company. So we didn't let the markets freak us. We stuck to our guns. It took me 9 months with the team to bring in Golden Hill. I don't want to say too much about the plans, but I do like these systems and I am on the lookout. So we're going to keep de-risking it, provided we could do it without breaking the budget in a sensible way. So, you know, right off the get-go, our foundation is being able to take Santos Glorias and Golden Hills, potentially, again, forward-looking statement, never sure, to proper discoveries. Underground development at Santos Glorias clearly showed high-grade material over mineable widths. We've got all this anomalism. We've got drill-ready targets. Drilling at Santos Glorias should, all things considered, be a positive. I'm not going to say looking into the crystal ball here. You know, I know the risk of this. I've done this all my life, been on the risk side. But I think Santos Glorias has a very fair opportunity. The catalysts in Bolivia, going underground in driving adits across an ore body, is effectively drilling that ore body. The difference is you're walking down the drill hole. So we're starting drilling at Golden Hill next month. We're going underground and we're going to start developing across these ore bodies. That is drilling, but it's doing it, allowing us to sample closer spacing with more surety, bulk samples, and that's got to be good for our future strategy of hopefully, potentially, possibly, you know, putting a resource together. forward-looking, but that's what we want to do. Then right in behind it, we're going to be drilling those strategic targets. And if we get invited back, mate, we'll try and get the story out again. So that might help as well, you know?
Hey, absolutely, Chris. I'm going to bring you back on my show over at kereport.com, and we'll get some more of these questions answered. We are going to wrap it up here because you walked us through what you're excited about, and it's a couple key projects here. So we really appreciate you taking the time, even as you're a little bit under the weather. Hope that you start feeling better here in the near term, but good presentation. Very interesting, especially the new project there in Bolivia, Golden Hill, and some of the work that's going to be undertaken there. Everyone, please, if you have follow-up questions, please email me, fleck@kereport.com. As I mentioned, I will get Chris to address those. You can also reach out to the IR department, and Donna Humphreys, her email address is displayed on the screen right there. Chris, again, thanks for your time. Appreciate the rundown here of what's going on with Mantaro.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate.